Hello, I'd like to share my thoughts on the Tommy Robinson situation. First of all, absolutely horrifying. Yes, this is an example of Orwell's 1984 in London, England. Just thinking of that gives me the creeps. Second, totally unfair. He is being attacked just because he wants to report something. But why? Because it has to do with Islam. Because he is speaking the truth, and the authorities in London obviously will not tolerate any other opinion but theirs. Period. Their opinion is, Islam is wonderful.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. I'm going to play for you today a very long clip, not because I'm running out of topics. Let me tell you, that's not the case. I'm playing you this clip because, for me, it personifies all that's right and proper with debates. This person, to my mind, exemplifies all that I think we should aim for and aim to be in a free society. This is what, to my mind, what free speech is all about. I do not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Evelyn Beatrice Hall. This piece is from a lady by the name of Anne Widdecombe, a very British name. I'm sure most of you have never heard of her. She was, until very recently, a British Conservative Member of Parliament. She was a Member of Parliament for decades, but left only a short while ago to join Nigel Farage's Brexit Party and was rewarded by winning a seat in the recent local European elections in May of this year. She stands up for Britain, that's clear, but what is not so clear, while as a Conservative MP, was her stance on freedom and, more importantly, freedom of speech. Now, you're going to hear her very eloquent views. I have to warn you, though, she does have rather an unusual voice, but if you can listen past that, which I'm sure you can, you will hear a very reasoned argument as to why no one should be, as one of the latest buzz phrases, which is so popular to use these days, be deplatformed, which is a fancy way of saying censored or banned from social media or anywhere else to that matter. And you will hear her a very unique appreciation for all to have freedom from censorship, even those she absolutely abhors. Here's that piece. It's from a recent debate on deplatforming or censoring someone that you don't agree with. That's censoring or banning someone whose views or opinions you either disagree with or find offensive. It's from the Oxford Union debate in July 2019. The links will be on my site.
And I now look to Anne Widdecombe, ex-secretary, ex-treasurer, to close the case for the opposition tonight.
Hello, Oxford Union. Here I am, right back where I started from 50 years ago. And do you know what the subject of my first paper speech was? It was censorship. Plus ça change, as Juncker might say. Now, tonight is crucial. This is not just any old Thursday debate at the Oxford Union. There was a moment in the past when what happened here had reverberations round the world. And that was when this House decided that it would not fight for king and country. And it gave immense comfort to a rather nasty regime. And tonight it is crucial that this House, this bastion of freedom, this renowned historical organization that has always been devoted to free speech, does not tonight go the other way and make a decision in favor of censorship. What we are debating here tonight is crucial. Now, I speak with feeling. When I was growing up, it was in the immediate post-war period when people had lost sons, husbands, fathers to the Nazis. They'd lost limbs and faced a life of disability. They had lost homes. They had lost them to a vile regime called National Socialism. And yet, Oswald Mosley and Colin Jordan and other such charming souls were allowed in law to hold their rallies in this country. You think how much offence, how much hurt, how much insult that caused to people who had made such major sacrifices. But the devotion to free speech and the recognition that we had spent 6 years fighting for liberty led us to believe that it was preferable to have free speech than not to be offended. And then a few years later, when I was here, we were right at the height of the Cold War. And it's difficult to remember 30 years after the Berlin Wall came down. But we were actually at a stage when all along the borders of what were then the Warsaw Pact countries, the Soviet Union had stationed weapons pointing straight at us. And yet, you could still stand for Parliament as a communist. You probably wouldn't get in, but you could still stand. You could stand on street corners and sell the Morning Star. You could subscribe openly to the Communist Party. And I expect that gave a lot of offence, and that caused a lot of hurt, and probably also alarm. But we believed that free speech was more important. Now, only two sorts of people oppose free speech, and they are at opposite ends of the scale: snowflakes and totalitarians. Now, Celeste said there's nothing wrong with being a snowflake. No, you can be as snowflakish as you like, providing you don't try to impose that on other people. I am offended, upset, insulted at least 30 times a day. Tough. Celeste upset me. Celeste wounded me. Celeste has caused me trauma. She poured scorn on my paso doble. And does she realise that in 15 years' time, I am still going to be traumatised, and I am going to form a movement? Me Too dancers who were insulted in the Oxford Union. Oh, come on. Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. It is an occupational hazard of living in society. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit. But more seriously, on the opposite end from the snowflakes, poor little darlings, on the opposite end from them are the totalitarians. And that was how Hitler was so successful, because he did not allow any free speech whatever. And if you spoke out against that sickening regime, or indeed against the Soviet Union, 2 minutes more, no, I need at least 5, or spoke out in the Soviet Union, you would end up in prison, if not worse. Totalitarians like to curtail your right to disagree with state orthodoxy. Now, for state orthodoxy, substitute the words social orthodoxy. As exemplified by social media, Twitter, and other such places where people decide what is and what is not acceptable. Now, I would love to stand in this union and oppose and argue with and take to pieces a Holocaust denier. But if we say no, we can never have the Holocaust denier because his views are so offensive that he cannot be accorded a platform, then what happens? That sort of viewpoint is driven underground where it can quite often flourish. And people whisper behind their hands, oh, you know, there's something in what he says, but we're not allowed to hear it. Let's hear it. And by hearing it, we can destroy it. We should also remember that today's heresy can become tomorrow's credo. How fortunate we were that the Wilberforces of this world, the Pankhursts, the Martin Luther Kings, and everybody else who has over time and with massive effort changed society, how grateful we may be that they were not no platforms because it offended the society of their time. Now, I recently was asked if I objected to sharing a platform with somebody who had spoken in favour of, had not been involved in, but had spoken in favour of the IRA. Now, I lost a friend in the Brighton bomb. I missed the Brighton bomb by less than 20 minutes. And I looked at this person and I said, so you wanted to blow me up? And she said, well, I didn't want to do it myself. I do not object to sharing a platform and arguing with her, because by arguing with her, I can expose what is wrong. It is absolutely right that we should allow people, no matter how profoundly we disagree with them. I hate to utter cliches in this august debating hall, but I am going to utter one. That no matter how much we may disagree with somebody, we should defend to the hilt their right to say it.
There you have it. If you deny the right of anyone to say anything, then you fall into their trap, the trap of being able to say things that expose both them and their ideas, whether they be on the left or on the right. If you label people as a group for sole purposes of demonizing an individual, then you are arguing that their point of view in your mind fits into a category you can't tolerate. Now, I have to be honest, and I freely admit, I'm guilty of that myself to some extent. But here's the point, and this is very important. If it talks like a communist, walks like a communist, then it has to be a communist. All I do, as many others do, is expose those who pretend to be something they are not. In America, for example, the Democrats pretend to be just that, democratic, but their deeds and actions suggest something very different. In Canada, the same applies to the Liberals, who claim to be for the people, but when you analyse their actions, these are far from benefiting those citizens they claim to represent. Now, getting back to the point of deplatforming, or what I insist on calling censoring and censorship, if you silence those with whom you profoundly disagree, the only result will be not that they are silenced, but their views will fester out of sight. You will think you have won, but by removing the voice to oppose you, in reality, their strength will only grow, and in the end, it's not them who will be silenced, it's you. That's you in the generic sense, by the way. But invariably, this is at a great cost, one of civil unrest. By silencing thoughts, views, and protests on social media, or anywhere else, including academia, the only possible outcome is your ultimate demise. Witness how the great and powerful Soviet Union failed. So in the end, it matters not how big or how small the control is over the citizen. The citizen eventually is the winner, and always the winner is freedom. Freedom can never be silenced, no matter how much they try. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ DB, News Talk Radio. Join us and many others, and you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.